And but even then, you've gotten it out of the mud. You've removed the guts. It is still not easy to keep hair off the meat when you skin.
Yeah.
And that's because skinning is a skill. It is a fiddly, tricky thing. It is not if you don't mind leaving some meat on the hide. Then you can just be very quick and have it done. Mm-hmm. Leaving meat, particularly the fell. And the fell is the muscle that all hided animals use to twitch their hide to get flies off of them. So you know which muscle I'm talking about. And we are said to have it right here.
Oh, interesting. Around your neck.
Yeah, if you clench your chin and you flare your neck muscles, that's a fell-like sheet. It's a sheet muscle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a very weird muscle.
Yeah.
That is just subcutaneous. Mm-hmm. And deer have it. Mm-hmm. And cows have it. Mm-hmm. And goat and lamb have it. And here's the thing about the fell is it is the thing that distinguishes a good skinning job from an not so good one.
Which we see.
Yeah, and it's not just cleanliness, and it's not just that you don't leave any meat on the hide. It is efficiency also.
Okay.
So the secret of the fell is that if you leave the fell muscle on the carcass, it is easier to remove the hide. That's where you can remove the hide by fisting and pulling, and maybe even a pumping, a compressor gun to remove the hide that way. Rather than knifing off every square inch of it. You will find yourself using your knife way more than necessary. So a good skinner of any hided animal barely uses the knife at all. You only use the knife to open up the hide enough to be in that proper seam with the fell against the flesh, not the hide, so that you can fit your hand in there. And then you fist off the whole hide. And deer do this wonderfully, beautifully. All the deer I've skinned have their fells are thick and gorgeous, and it leaves this beautiful carcass. And not unimportant, especially for Vashon deer, it leaves on the maximum amount of fat. So on Vashon, all of the fat resides in the fell, essentially. It's on the exterior. It's a little cap. It's a subcutaneous layer of fat that is a cap on the otherwise exclusively lean flesh of venison on Vashon. So leaving that fell in saves you meat, keeps the fat on, keeps things cleaner, and it's easier to take the hide off. It is simply more efficient because when you're doing it by knife, you're limited not only to the sharpness of your knife, which we hope is scary sharp, but to how much ground you can cover with a knife. When you fist it, it's just like, you just skinned a swath the size of your forearm in half a second. Whereas with a knife, it's, inch by inch, pulling inch by inch, and it just takes way longer. So I don't know how I can show people how to find the fell right now, but I know we have a video, or we will soon.
Yeah. No, we did. I posted it last month.
Yeah, on skinning a goat. And you can practice good skinning that will transfer to your venison skinning on goats and lamb. Like, it is identical. The actions, the process is the same.
That's in our membership program.
Yeah, on the Meatsmith membership, we have a video on discerning the fell. And that's really the key to all ruminant skinning. Sorry, I'm smacking the mic. If you can find the fell, if you can find the seam that keeps the fell muscle on the carcass, not on the hide, then you can work your way through skinning efficiently and beautifully. You'll even see a beautiful pattern. One way you get it is you'll see a pattern on the back of the animal. I could show them.
Okay.
Should we show them?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I have carcasses.
It's a lamb or a goat, isn't it?
This is a little goat that I skin. And so
we could compare it to
this little muscle. I'm gesturing for those who can see. The muscle in between the ribs, the flappy muscle, the thin little muscle in between the ribs and the hind leg. That right there. You can see how it's a flap, and it's like see-through. It's transparent. You want that to stay on the carcass. When you're skinning and you're pulling that hide out, it's so easy for your knife to come in here and to keep this fell on the hide. And then you're pulling and working it off, and you're just pulling the fell off of the whole animal that way. But if you can leave that on the carcass, then you can fist with less effort and pull the hide off, and you retain all this fat. And you can't quite see it, it's too faint. But there are actual stripes on the back of a quadruped. Yeah. They kind of meet right here. This is a very young goat, so you can't really see it, but it's really beautiful, and that's how you know that you've got it. That you're leaving the maximum amount of fat on the
I don't know if I've ever seen a deer carcass that's been processed that way. Because
no.
you always see it's just the leg and then it comes back in for the forequarter.
Yeah.
But
you never see this.
You never see that little flap there.
Yeah. It may look a little something like that. See the big gap right there. That's the fell that is usually, there's no fell here. And you can see just completely red meat, no layer of fell, which is very common. I mean, I've never seen a deer with the fell still on it, unless it's one that I have skinned.
Right.
But that's why I think that it's worth the extra trouble to gut the deer in the field and then take it back and to a place where you have a gambrel where you can raise and lower the deer efficiently, and you can focus on getting into that right seam. One other trick to skinning, because the skinning is it's really such a decisive part that I think is often overlooked in how good venison tastes, is to keep one hand hairy and one hand hairless.
Right.
Utterly hairless. Yeah. And don't touch the meat.
Yeah.
And so this is in the context of you shoot the deer, you gut it, and you keep the hide on, and you drag it back to your garage and skin it there. In that case, you've got time to hang it. You should hang it from a gambrel, in a winch or a pulley. And then you rinse all the way up to past your elbows on both hands, both arms, and keep those spotless. And then you keep your hide grabbing hand, your left hand. And so that one is touching the hide. It is therefore hairy and muddy and dirty almost the whole time. Whereas your knife hand should be spotless.
Right.
So you should never put the knife down and touch the deer.
Right.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Just keep going all the way through.
Yeah, and it might feel awkward at first, but you'll get it. And it'll make sense because you'll find, wow, one of the primary benefits is that your hand isn't greased by fat.
Right.
And then you touch your knife handle. Now your knife handle is permanently greased up by fat. Yeah. And it's horrible. It's so annoying. So I avoid that with a high degree of puritanical obsession. My knife handle is pristine always. So it's not slippery. And then the other error that I see most common in skinning is touching the meat. You remove hide from a part of the animal, and then you grab that. You grab it. You grab the leg. It's like, why don't touch it. Why did you touch it? To stabilize or something. Just once you remove the hide, consider that sacred territory.
Yeah.
And you never touch it, particularly with your dirty hand. But the only time you would touch it is when you're fisting with your knife hand. That's when you put the knife down, and that knife hand never touches the exterior of the hide. It's only in between the carcass and the hide, and that is the clean zone. And your whole knife hand and forearm is clean, and that's where you can fist freely. Because especially at the back of your elbow, that's going to collect gunk on it.
Right.
And so make sure that is rinsed, because you'll get smears all over it as you fist the hide off.
Okay.
And so that's just a pragmatic thing, one dirty hand, one pristinely clean one.
Neat. Well, okay. So, and if you want a better, or just a full demo, a visual demo on this, again, we have like a 15-minute video on our membership of the skinning, and also another video on the evisceration too.
Yeah.
Which I would assume is, again, identical to how you eviscerate another ruminant. Yeah,
the differences are not decisive between a lamb, a goat, and a deer, and even a cow. But a cow is a little less difficult to translate because it is so huge. Yeah. Not because the actual processes are that different. Okay. Or anatomy. The anatomy is not that different. But if you can skin a goat or a lamb and eviscerate them, you can do a deer.